'n eienskap wat ons deel, hoofstuk 12. Eers 6 windpompe en omtrent 2 uur later is my ryles verby. Ons gaan nou weer op die teerpad ry, sê my ouma. Dis dalk beter dat ek oorvat. Ek klim weer aan die passasierskant in. My hande kramp soos ek die stuurwiel vasgeklou het. Maar ek sukkel om nie te glimlag nie. Dit is seker nie baie cool om jou eerste ryles by jou ouma te kry nie. Maar sy was verbasend geduldig. Die moeilikste is die wegtrek en die stilhou. Ek het die Land Rover 'n paar keer laat vrek, maar ek dink ek het dit nou soort van onder die knie. Dis is fietsry, sê my ouma toe ons weer op die teerpad ry. As jy dit een keer reg gekry het, sukkel jy nooit weer nie. Chapter 12, a characteristic that we share. Somewhat 6 windmills and about 2 hours later, Luan's driving lesson is over. His grand says we're about to get back onto the tar road and it's perhaps better if I take over. Once again, Luan climbs into the passenger seat. His hands have been cramping from the way he's been clamping onto the steering wheel with his hands. But he struggles not to smile. It's probably not very cool to have your first driving lesson with your grandmother, but she was surprisingly patient. The most difficult part was pulling away and stopping, and he did manage to let the Land Rover die a couple of times, but now he thinks he's kind of got things under control. His grand says it's a bit like riding a bicycle when they got back onto the tar road. Once you've got it right once, you won't ever struggle again. My selfoon piep. Dankie tog. Hier is weer sein. Ek stuur dadelik vir Lana 'n foto wat ek net nou geneem het, terwyl my ouma besig was om windpompfoto's te neem. Op die foto is ek agter die stuurwiel, met Dolores in die agtergrond. Een ding is seker, Dolores mag nou wel 'n skaap wees, maar sy weet hoe om vir 'n foto te poseer. Haar oë lyk so groot soos pierings op die foto, asof sy regtig bang is om saam met my te ry. My eerste ryles en 'n effense verskrikte passasier skryf ek onderaan die foto. Sy skryf dadelik terug. Arme Dolores. Ek het gewonder waar julle is. Ons is op pad Carnarvon toe. Zzz, vanaand daar. Ek glimlag verbaas. Hi, ons ook. My ouma het 'n ou skoolvriend wat daar bly. Ek bel jou as ons daar is. Dalk kan jy vir Dolores kom kuier. Ek hoop dit klink nie te voorbarig nie. His cell phone beeps and he thinks, thank goodness there's cell phone signal again. He immediately sends Lana a picture or a photo that he took of Lana while his gran was photographing windmills. And on the photograph, he's behind the steering wheel with Dolores in the background. One thing is for sure. Dolores may be a sheep, but she knows how to pose for a photograph. Her eyes are as big as saucers in the picture, as though she's really scared to be driving with Luan. He says, my first driving lesson and a slightly scared passenger. That's what he wrote under the photograph. She wrote back immediately, poor Dolores. She says, I wondered where you were. We're on our way to Carnarvon. We're going to sleep there tonight. Luan smiles, quite surprised. He says, hey, we're also going there. My gran's got an old school friend that lives there. I'll phone you when we are there. Maybe you can come visit Dolores. And he hopes he's not sounding too voorbarig. He's kind of like precocious, or that he's not getting too over the top. My pa het my en my broer jare gelede op hierdie einste plaaspaaie geleer bestuur, sê my ouma. Elke Sondagmiddag na ete het ons die pad gevat. My pa het geglo, as jy ordentlik wil leer bestuur, moet jy op 'n grondpad leer. Het ouma dan hier groot geword, vra ek. Sy knik. Ja, op Carnarvon. Ek voel nogal skuldig omdat ek nie geweet het nie. Luan, wat is die ding tussen jy en jou pa? Vra sy onverwags. Ek byt dadelik op my tande. OK, so vanoggend se ryles was net om verskoning om hieroor te praat. Ek moes dit seker geweet het. Wat's die ding tussen ouma en my pa hulle? Vra ek nors. Julle is nie eintlik mal oor mekaar nie, of hoe? Uit die hoek van my oog sien ek hoe Dolores bekommerd oor die agterste sitplek loer, asof sy die skielike ongemaklike atmosfeer in die voertuig kan aanvoel. Daar het dinge gebeur, sê my ouma. Ek skat, ek het jou ouers teleurgestel. His grand says, my dad brought me and my brother years ago to start learning how to drive on these same farm roads, says his grand. Every Sunday afternoon after lunch, we would take to the road. My father, that would be Luan's great-grandfather, believed that if you wanted to learn to drive properly, you had to learn on a gravel road. Did you grow up here then, Gran? Asked Luan. She nods, yes, at Carnarvon. Suddenly he feels a bit guilty that he didn't know that. Luan, what is this thing between you and your dad? She asks unexpectedly. Onverwachts is unexpectedly. He immediately bites on his teeth. Okay, so this morning's driving lesson was just an excuse to talk about this. He should have known. So, but he gets back and he says, what's this thing between you and my dad and the family? He asks rather angrily. You aren't exactly mad about each other, are you? Out of the corner of his eye, he can see that Dolores is looking a bit worried as she looks over the back seat, as if she can suddenly feel this uncomfortable atmosphere in the vehicle. Things happen, says his gran. I think that I let your parents down. Ek frons. Waarvan praat sy? Maar ek kan nie juis uitvra nie. Nie as ek self van plan is om so min as moontlik te sê nie. Wel, daar het 'n paar dinge met my ook gebeur, sê ek. Ek skat ek het my pa teleurgestel. Skaakmaat. My ouma begin lag. Sy skud haar kop. Jy's harregat, nee, sê sy. Dit lyk my dis 'n eienskap wat ons deel. Haar bruin oë kyk reguit in myne. Jy hoef my nie te vertel wat laas Vrydag aand gebeur het nie, sê sy. Dis jou keuse. Ek knik. Solank sy daardie deel verstaan. Sonder om 'n woord ver te sê, begin ek met my selfoon karring. Ek weet nie hoe Lana dit reg kry nie, maar Depro Skaap het tog meer aanhangers bygekry. Daar is nou altesaam 412 om presies te wees. My eie Twitterblad het ook 'n klomp volgelinge bygekry. Sien dat ek in Depro Skaap se foto's getag is. Maar ek het steeds nie eers 100 nie. Luan frowns. What is she talking about? But he can't exactly ask her out, not if he's not planning to tell her much himself. Well, there's things that also happened with me, he says. I think that I let my dad down. Checkmate. So in other words, neither of them are going to get any information from each other. And his gran starts to laugh. She shakes her head. You're quite tough, eh, she says. It looks like that's a characteristic that we share. And her brown eyes look directly into Luan's. You don't have to tell me what happened last Friday night, she says. That's your choice. He nods, as long as she understands that part. Without another word, he starts to fiddle with his cell phone. He doesn't know how Lana has got it right, but Deborah's sheep has now got more followers. There's now altogether 412 to be precise. His own Twitter page has also got a lot of followers since he's been tagged in Deborah's sheep's photos. But he still doesn't even have 100. Dit lyk my baie van Dolores se aanhangers is mense wat vir diereregte beklei. Iemand het selfs 'n aanhaling van Gandhi op Twitter geplaas by 'n selfie wat ek saam met Dolores geneem het. To my mind, the life of a lamb is no less precious than that of a human being, @low_Luan. You rock, man. Hoe op aarde het Lana dit reg gekry? Mense dink nou ek is die een of ander kampvegter vir diereregte. Voor in die pad flits 'n padteken verby. Carnarvon 10. Dis die einde van hoofstuk 12. It looks as though many of Dolores's followers are people that fight for animal rights. Someone has even added a quote from Gandhi on Twitter with a selfie that he took with Dolores. I don't really have to translate that, but just to recap, to my mind, the life of a lamb is no less precious than that of a human being. @low_Luan, you rock, man. So how on earth did Lana manage to get that right? People now think he is some sort of fighter for animal rights. And in the front of them, a road sign flashes past, and it says Carnarvon 10. So they are 10 kilometers away from Carnarvon, where he and Lana seemingly will meet up again. That's the end of chapter 12. Ek klim weer aan die passasierskant in. My hande kramp soos ek die stuurwiel vasgehou het. Okay, let's start again. Because you messed up, buddy. Stop messing up, please.